Alright, Shalom. Giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power Yahweh. Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachakudash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, other tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, to our say Shalom, Shalom. Right, we're in Joshua, the 15th chapter, in the NLT. So it says, the land given to the tribe of Judah. All right. So it says, the allotment for the clans of the tribe of Judah reached southward to the border of Edom, as far south as the wilderness of Zin. The southern boundary began at the south bay of the Dead Sea. All right. So the Dead Sea is one of those, bodies of water situated, where the Jordan River is. It says, the southern boundary began at the south bay of the Dead Sea, ran south of Scorpion Pass in the wilderness of Zin, and then went south of Kadesh Barnea to Hezron. Then it went up to Adar, where it turned toward Karka. All right, and real quick, we may jump back and forth to it. So this is a general, map. All right, because sometimes it look different. It's like in this one. All right, but it's showing you, the tribes. You see, top down: Asher, Naphtali, Zebulun, Issachar. All right, Manasseh, one on the east of Jordan, one side on the west of Jordan. Ephraim south of there. Dan to their west. Benjamin straight south of there. Gad directly east over the Jordan. Reuben south of Gad, and then back over that Dead Sea across from Reuben, you'll see Judah, Simeon, and then you had Levi was all over. All right. And so there's that map again. Okay. So you see where the Dead Sea is. All right. So you see that Dead Sea. It's like that one's kind of blurry, but it's okay. It's probably a general map that you'll see all the time if you pull it up on Google or whatever. But yeah, so and you notice how it's slightly different at the northern portion there, where you see Benjamin. But if you go over here, all right, it goes north before Benjamin. So like I said, it's give or take with these maps. It's just to give you a general idea, all right, of about all of our lands, right? So let's jump back over here. So it says it ran south of Scorpion Pass in the wilderness of Zin, and then went south. And then did I show? Let me see. Let me go back. I don't think it's on these. Okay, yeah, I didn't show that. So the wilderness of Zin, see right down here, going down there, all right? So it says it ran south of Scorpion Pass into the wilderness of Zin, and then went south of Kadesh Barnea to Hezron. Then it went up to Adar, where it turned toward Karka. From there, it passed to Asmon until it finally reached the brook of Egypt, which it followed to the Mediterranean Sea. This was their southern boundary. So going back over here again, right? That should be the brook of Egypt. We can't say for sure, and this one doesn't even show at all. All right, but as you see, there's the Mediterranean right there. Okay, so the eastern boundary extended along the Dead Sea. So back going east, where we started the Dead Sea, right? Because it says the southern bay of the Dead Sea. Now, going back, to the borders of the Dead Sea again. The eastern boundary extended along the Dead Sea to the mouth of the Jordan River. The northern boundary began at the bay where the Jordan River empties into the Dead Sea. Okay, and that's why I said, is give or take with these maps, because you see right here. All right, there's that Jordan River, the dark blue, and then the lighter one is obviously the Dead Sea. And so right here you see the land directly stopping at the north of the Dead Sea. So, all right, so that's why we want to bring up both of them. The northern boundary began at the bay where the Jordan River empties into the Dead Sea. Went up from there to Beth Hogla. All right, so this is why I was showing this map, because it says it went up from there. So this would be more accurate, because it wouldn't just stop right here at the same borders of the Dead Sea if it says that it goes up. Okay, so this is probably more accurate here, this map here, because it's talking about more land, right? Because we didn't live on the actual sea, right? It It went up from there to Beth Hagla, then proceeded north of Beth Arabah to the stone of Bohan. Bohan was Reuben's son. As a matter of fact, you see that? See? That's north of the Dead Sea. It goes up further, not at the direct, edge, like right here on my screen, the direct edge, and just moving over. Okay? There was also some land above. See? So as I said before, this will be more accurate, this map here. All right? From that point, it went through the valley of Achor to Debir, turning north toward Gilgal, which is across from the slopes of Adumim on the south side of the valley. From there, the boundary extended to the springs of En Shemesh and on to En Rogel. The boundary then passed through the valley of Ben Hinnom along the southern slopes of the Jebusites, where the city of Jerusalem is located. Then it went west to the top of the mountain above the valley of Hinnom, excuse me, of the valley of Hinnom, and on up to the northern end of the valley of Rephaim. All right, we probably should have put on Hinnom. More than likely we're gonna find that. There's one, valley of Rephaim, and it makes sense when you look at the other maps. Okay, because it wasn't like this was like some straight line. All right, it's no different from modern day cities today, or like a district. Okay, so you look at a state map or something like that, or even just a city, all right, and all the different zones in the city, they're not straight. Well, sometimes they are, but more than likely, off of the map, if in real life, if you were traveling that particular path, it's not going to be just an exact straight line, all right? So that makes sense to you. So the boundary then passed through the valley of Ben Hinnom along the southern slopes of the Jebusites, where the city of Jerusalem is located. Then it went west to the top of the mountain above the valley of Hinnom and on up to the northern end of the valley of Rephaim. From there, the boundary extended from the top. Oh, excuse me, I almost dropped my phone. From there, the boundary extended from the top of the mountain to the spring at the waters of Nephtoah, and from there to the towns of Mount Ephraim or Ephraim. Okay, then it turned toward Baalah, that is Kiriath Jearim. Let's see if we can find where we are now. Okay, Kiriath Jearim, but we can't really see exactly where we are. Well, there's Bethlehem, Judea. Let me see here. What's going on here? Everything is kind of weird looking up that one. Kind of see Kirjat Jearim right here. Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Kiriath Jearim, Timnah. Same thing again. You see, notice this map is looking different from the other two maps. All right. So, like I said, it's give and take with these maps. It's more so just like to give you a general idea, an outline of exactly where these territories are. It doesn't have to be exactly correct because at the end of the day, when salvation comes, everything's going to get a lot bigger because we're going to eventually take over the earth itself, and we're going to get all the land that was allotted to us. All right. So anybody living from that portion there of Saudi Arabia, from the Nile River to from past Saudi Arabia all the way over to the Euphrates River, and up northward past the Mediterranean, following the Euphrates up to the southern borders of modern day Turkey. All those nations that are living in that land are going to be removed out of those lands for the Israelites. Okay, and the different tribes are going to actually take over all those different territories there. Okay, this is just more so a general idea. Us delving into the past. The boundary circled west of Baalah to Mount Seir, past which, because there's like a mountain range. There's a lot of hills and valleys in our areas, anyways, but a mountain range too. The boundary circle west of Baalah to Mount Seir passed along to the town of Ketzalan on the northern slope of Mount Jearim and went down to Beth Shemesh and on to Timnah. The boundary then proceeded to the slope of the hill north of Ekron, where it turned towards Shikaron and Mount Baalah. It passed Jabneel and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so you know the Mediterranean Sea is on the west. Then the western boundary was the shoreline of the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so the western boundary was the shoreline of the Mediterranean. Right now, you see how that looks different there, but this one looks different. You see, so okay, once again, that's why I keep saying over and over. Just look into these maps for yourself. If if that's what's on your spirit to do. Okay, it's not entirely important that we have it exactly right because, well, this is not the ancient times, but it's still good to know, at least a general area, okay, if you're not familiar with it, right? So let's go. The western boundary was the shoreline of the Mediterranean Sea. These are the boundaries of the clans of the tribe of Judah, Yehudah, right? Now, it says the land given to Caleb. Yahweh commanded Joshua to assign some of Judah's territory to Caleb, son of Jephunneh. So Caleb was given the town of Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, which had been named after Anak's ancestor. And real quick, let me go over here to the KJV. I want to grab really quick Caleb. I'm gonna capture. Okay, so I was just looking. I was trying to find something there, but it's not there. All right, so let's keep going. So it says, Yahweh commanded Joshua to assign some of Judah's territory to Caleb, son of Jephunneh. So Caleb was given the town of Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, which had been named after Anak's ancestor. Caleb drove out the three groups of Anakites, the descendants of Shishai, Ahiman, and Talmai, the sons of Anak. Okay, so it says, from there he went to fight against the people living in the town of Debir, formerly called Kiriath Sefer. Caleb said, I will give my daughter Aksah in marriage to the one who attacks and captures Kiriath Sefer. Othniel, the son of Caleb's brother Kenaz, was the one who conquered it. So Aksah became Othniel's wife. When Aksah married Othniel, she urged him to ask her father for a field as she got down off her donkey. Caleb asked her, what's the matter? She said, give me another gift. You have already given me land in the Negev. Now also give me springs of water too. So Caleb gave her the upper and lower springs. And if we go back up here, it gives us the account in Judges chapter 1, verse 11 through 15, where it says from there, verse 11, from there, they went to fight against the people living in the town of Debir, formerly called Kiriath Sefer. It says, Caleb said, I will give my daughter Aksah, and which is basically the same thing we just read. All right, this is just, that account there in the book of Judges. So honestly, we don't really have to read it. All right. So it says, when Aksah married Othniel, she urged him to ask her father for a field. As she got down off her donkey, Caleb asked her, what's the matter? She said, let me have another gift. You have already given me land in the Negev. Now, please give me springs of water too. So Caleb gave her the upper and lower springs. Okay. Well, there's one thing that we can do. We can grab here and map up the Negev. Okay. The Negev desert. Wilderness of Zin, the Negev. All right. So you see, right, and mind you, now remember it says of a portion of Judah's land. I don't think there's gonna be too many maps here. South District. I mean, you kind of get the general. It's just a bunch of guns here. Where is it? Right here. Okay, so let me see those over there. But you pretty much see the general location right here. So I mean, we don't have to go too far into that. Yep. So moving on. because we're almost through here. So it says the towns allotted to Judah. Now we're not going to go and map all these towns, because we are already familiar with the general area, the general territory. So it just be kind of pointless to try to map every little town here. So it says this was the homeland allocated to the clans of the tribe of Judah. The towns of Judah situated along the borders of Edom in the extreme south were Kabzeel, Eder, Jagur, Kinah, Demona, Adadah, Kadesh, Hazor, Ithnan, Ziph, Telem, Bealoth, Hazar Hadatah, Kiriath Hezron, that is Hazor, Amam, Shema, Moladah, Hazar Gadah, Heshmon, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shual, Beersheba, Biziathiah, Baalah, Lim, Ezem, Eltalad, Kezel, Hormah, Ziklag, Madmanah, Sasana, Lebaoth, Shilhim, Ain, and Rimmon, 29 towns with their surrounding villages. Now, you may think, like, well, why is all this listed? Now, today for us, we can look it up, but it's not going to make a big difference to us today. But back then, okay, just like you would keep the registry of, the lineage of a particular person or family or group or whatever the case may be, all right, just like you would have kept that back in the days, these things were important, all right, knowing these territories of the land, especially if you were a newcomer to your people, all right, like you lived off somewhere, maybe you lived in Turkey somewhere and you came home and you were of the tribe of Judah. Once you proven that you were a tribe of Judah, you were going to get a territory, all right, some plot of land in the tribe in the land of Judah, okay, by default, because you're an Israelite, this land belongs to you as well, so you would get land there, all right. So yeah, so knowing the limit of your borders is very important. All right. But first of all, proving that you're from that particular tribe. All right. Then they'll find you some plot of land and you get it. All right. So it's extremely important, more important than you may think. Now, continuing on, verse 33 says, the following towns situated in the western foothills were also given to Judah: Eshtaol, Zorah, Ashna, Zanoah, Inganim, Tapua, Enam, Jarmuth, Adulam, Sokah, Azekah, Sha'araim, Adathaim, Gederah, and Gederothaim, 14 towns with their surrounding villages. Also included were Zinan, Hadashah, Migdalgad, Dilian, Mizpeh, Joktheel, Lachish, Bozkath, Eglon, Kabon, Lamam, Kitlish, Gederoth, Beth Dagon, Naamah, and Makkedah, and which we read a little bit about Makkedah, right? 16 towns with their surrounding villages. Besides these, there were Libnah, Ether, Ashan, Iftah, Ashnah, Nezeb, Keilah, Akzib, and Marashah, 9 towns with their surrounding villages. The territory of the tribe of Judah also included Ekron and its surrounding settlements and villages. All right, which Judah, in case someone's new, Judah today, or the so-called Negroes. All right, so that's what this is talking about. All right, Negroes is not a real name or black or colored or either. All right, you are the tribe of Yahweh. All right, Judah, as the world knows. Well, I mean, the world doesn't know. They know the name, but they don't know exactly who those people are. All right, but the so-called Negroes are the tribe of Judah. So you're reading about those territories if you happen to be a Judite. From Ekron, the boundary extended west and included the towns near Ashdod with their surrounding villages. So, Ashdod is over there off that coast of the Mediterranean. If I'm correct, that's actually inside of Gaza. So that would be like southwest, I guess. I mean, I guess depending on the where you pointed out from. What I had in my mind, I was thinking southwest, where I was in my mind located. But yeah, as a matter of fact, let's Ashdod thing real quick. Hey, it's good to say that a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod. Well, who's there now? See, look, state of Israel, a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod. The Gaza Strip, so it's not as far as actually down to the Gaza. Let me see if I can find another map. Just double check that. Here we go. See if this will work. Ashdod. Yes, so it's not as far down as Gaza, but I was still in the general area though, south, west. From what I was in my mind, southwest. But there you go, Ashdod, Ashkelon. Okay, here's another one. See, just north of there. It's actually almost directly west of Jerusalem. It's just on the coast of the Mediterranean. Excuse me. But you get the point, though, right? And once again, who lives there today? The bastard that the scriptures say. A bastard shall dwell in Ashdod. At Ashdod. But that's a whole other topic right there. From Ekron, the boundary extended west and included the towns near Ashdod with their surrounding villages. It has included Ashdod with its surrounding settlements and villages, and Gaza, which we just mentioned, with its settlements. So that's further south, right? Also on the coast of the Mediterranean, and Gaza with its settlements and villages as far as the Brook of Egypt and along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Judah also received the following towns in the hill country: Shamir, Jatir, Sokah, Dana, Kiryat Sanah, that is Debir, Anab, Eshtamo, Anim, Goshen, right? Goshen. Okay, remember Goshen? All right. Goshen is where we lived at. Stop at the truck. Goshen is where we lived at, when we were captive under Egypt. Okay. After the pretty much the history of Joseph, following his history there, he pretty much survived his family, through the famine, and we were brought to Egypt where he was, because at this time he was now second in command, and Joseph put them up on game of what to say to Pharaoh and so on and so forth when they first met him. All right, and so we ended up living in Goshen. All right. And the history moves forward from there, eventually moving on to from following Joseph to following the story of Moses. All right, but it's still all centered around generally the Israelites. Let's keep going. Goshen, Halan, all right, and Gilo, 11 towns with their surrounding villages. Also included were the towns of Arab, Duma, Ishan, Janim, Beth Tapawah, Africa, not Africa, Humta, Kiryat Arba, and that's something to point out there, because people keep talking about motherland, motherland. Africa ain't no damn motherland, man. What does it say in Galatians that Jerusalem above is mother of us all? That was talking about the Israelites. Not everybody's talking about the Israelites. Okay, so if Africa is the motherland, which is not, why are the lands allotted to the children of Israel in a whole other territory? Make it make sense. Okay, if Africa is the motherland, why was Adam in this same territory that we're reading about now? So make it make sense. All right, it's the problem that you've been lied to and told that you were Africans. You're not. You ended up in Africa after fleeing from the Romans in 70 AD, and then you were brought into the slave trades from Africa, and the Africans know that. If you go talk to a real African, they'll tell you, hell no, you ain't my people, and we feel the same way because I'm not African. All right, those are not your people, and Africa is not the motherland. Okay, the garden eastward in Eden is situated on these territories we're reading about now, which is not in Africa, man. But this is why the scriptures tell you to seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. None of these shall fail, meaning the prophecies, none shall war or make. Because these other books can't tell you about real life. The only book on the planet where it has been recorded of old times and things actually happen is from out of the Bible. That's called a prophecy. Because those are the words of the Heavenly Father. All right. That's why these things are so important to understand. Okay. So it says Humtai, let's finish reading while I was done. Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron, and Zior, 9 towns with their surrounding villages. Besides these, there were Maon, Carmel, Ziph, Jotai, Jezreel, all right, Jokdim, Zanoah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 towns with their surrounding villages. In addition, there were Halhul, Beth Zur, Gedor, Marath, Beth Anath, and Eltekon, 6 towns with their surrounding villages. There were also Kiryat Baal, that is Kiryat Jearim, which, if I'm correct, we already saw that on the map. Let me pull it back up real quick. Let's see if we get a better map here. Something that's actually more zoomed out. Yep. So you pull this one up real quick. Wait, did it give us the same one? Okay, I was zoomed in. All right. Oh my goodness, lost it. Hold up. Bear with me. There you go. So Kiryat Jearim. All right. Of course, considering that's the actual location, so sometimes these maps are off. But once again, just a general idea, just to, at least you to get a general map in your mind. So let's back up. So yep, there were also Kiryat Baal, that is Kiryat Jearim, and Rabbah, 2 towns with their surrounding villages. In the wilderness, there were the towns of Beth Arabah, Midden, Sakaka or Sikaka, Nibshan, the city of salt, and Engedi, 6 towns with their surrounding villages. And I'm curious about that. I have to look it up on my own time. Why it's called the city of salt. As a matter of fact, let's just see if we can just get it all in there. This is real quick, real quick. Uh, the city of salt. Yep, yep. It's Quran, a town in southern Judah between Beersheba and the Dead Sea. Wait, okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to look too much into it right now. If I do, I'll do it on my own time. So let's finish this off. It says, but the tribe of Judah could not drive out the Jebusites who lived in the city of Jerusalem. So the Jebusites live there among the people of Judah to this day. Now, before we close off, I want to get one more thing here. All right, to put this all in perspective, because this comes later. All right, down the line. So we'll go to the book of Judges. I'm not sure if it's in one, but I know it's in chapter 2 and verse chapter comes in chapter 3. What it tells you about this. Matter of fact, let's start from the top. The angel of the Lord Yahweh went up from Gilgal to Bochim, Judges chapter 2, verse 1, and said to the Israelites, I brought you out of Egypt into this land that I swore to give your ancestors, and I said I would never break my covenant with you. For your part, you were not to make any covenants with the people living in this land. Instead, you were to destroy their altars, but you disobeyed my command. Why did you do this? So now declare that I will no longer drive out the people living in your land. They will be thorns in your sides, and their gods will be a constant temptation to you. When the angel of the Lord Yahweh finished speaking to all the Israelites, the people wept loudly. So they called the place Bochim, which means weeping, and they offered sacrifices to the Lord Yahweh. After Joshua sent the people away, each of the tribes left to take possession of the land allotted to them. And the Israelites served the Lord Yahweh throughout the lifetime of Joshua and the leaders who outlived him, those who had seen all the great things Yahweh had done for Israel. Joshua son of Nun, the servant of the Lord Yahweh, died at the age of 110. They buried him in the land he had been allocated at Timnath Serah in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash, right? Which Ephraim today are the so-called Puerto Ricans, all right? In the Hebrew, there would be a paryim, which means fruitful, okay? Um, After that generation died, another generation grew up who did not acknowledge the Lord Yahweh or remember the mighty things he had done for Israel. The Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight and served the images of Baal. They abandoned the Lord Yahweh, the power of their ancestors who had brought them out of Egypt. Then they went after other gods, worshiping the gods of the people around them, and they angered the Lord Yahweh. They abandoned Yahweh to serve Baal and the images of Ashtoreth, which goes back to the law, first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. It goes on to say that he's a jealous power. This made the Lord Yahweh burn with anger against Israel, so he handed them over to raiders who stole their possessions. He turned them over to their enemies all around, and they were no longer able to resist them. Every time Israel went out to battle, Yahweh fought against them, causing them to be defeated, just as he had warned, and the people were in great distress. Now, let me see if I can grab the KJV real quick. Um, see if I can find something here. See, it says Israel serves Baal. As a matter of fact, let's do this. Jump over to chapter 3 real quick. Here we go. Right to it. See? Judges 3 and 1. Now these are the nations which Yahweh left to prove Israel by them, even as many of Israel as had not known all the wars of Canaan. So those that were newly born and grew up, right? Or those that maybe have been of age but didn't fight, whatever the case may have been. Only that the generations of the children of Israel might know to teach them war, at the least such as before knew nothing thereof, namely 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians, and the Hivites that dwelt in Mount Lebanon. These today are, certain tribes amongst the Hamites, which would be the so-called Africans today, man. All right. Once again, talking about, in particular Judah, because we're talking about all the 12 tribes, but in particular Judah. All right. You're not Africans, man. You come from the line of Shem, and you don't come from the line of Ham. All right. The Africans come from the line of Ham. You come from the line of Shem. Okay. But because the world has been lied to, and now you look at these imposters over there throwing around the word Sim, which is not anybody in the Bible, right? It's Shem, not Sim, but you're also a Semite or a Shemite. So how can you be anti-Semitic or anti-Shemitic? But the world doesn't understand these things, so they just eat up the lies that are told to them. While these people, commit genocide to take over a land that doesn't belong to them, as well as the other nations that are fighting. For those, all those nations that live over there, none of that land belongs to them. Okay, but the world is blinded by the lies, that were pushed forth, mainly coming from that Renaissance period. Renaissance meaning rebirth. Okay, which that's all in the scriptures. But it says, namely, 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians, and the Hivites that dwelt in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal Hermon unto the entering in of Hamath. And they were to prove Israel by them, to know whether they would hearken unto the commandments of the Lord Yahweh, which he commanded their fathers by the hand of Moses. And the children of Israel dwelt among the Canaanites, Hittites, and Amorites, and Perizzites, and Hivites, and Jebusites. And they took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and served their gods, which is just going off. Now, it's one thing, all right, for the Israelites to have taken these women, okay, um, they were going off, but at least of all, you can still bring Israelite into the world. But if you give their women to their men, you're not bringing Israelites into the world anymore. You're bringing heathens in by way of an Israelite women. All right, so it's totally off when it comes to the women. And they took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and served their gods. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and forgat Yahweh their power, and served Baalim and the groves. Therefore, the anger of Yahweh was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Ch.15, all right, king of Mesopotamia. And the children of Israel served Ch.15 8 years. Okay, so I just wanted to read that there, just because that last scripture from the book of Joshua, what it mentions, all right, that they could not drive out the Jebusites who lived in the city of Jerusalem. So the Jebusites lived there among the people Genesis say. And so the understanding, the reason behind that came later. All right. But it was all, because the Lord was constantly testing the Israelites. All right. But nonetheless, all right, sticking to the point, just mapping out the lands that were given to the Israelites. And that was the end of the book of Joshua, the 15th chapter. So, Lord willing, you were edified. Today, it's Daniel Shirala. Let's say shalom.